Hawkman issues 8 to 12 sees Carter arrive at the ruins of Krypton, making the Hawkman remember his past on Krypton, meeting with his Kryptonian counterpart Carter Ol, as the planet undergoes destabilization. Carter talks with his past self, who is more adjusted to meeting his future self than the others were. Carter shows his future self around the Museum of Krypton, which Carter is protecting from the destabilization of the planet with nth metal, but he knows the museum will collapse eventually and everything will be lost. Carter resigns himself to the notion that he can't do anything, but the future Hawkman says that they need to do something. Carter wonders what they will do since there's nowhere to go, as this is the final chapter in Krypton's story. Hawkman says that if it helps, there are survivors, like Superman, whom Carter would know as Kal-El. Carter is aware of Jor-El, the boy's father, since Kara Zor-El is one of his students, and she is a bright child. He wants to show Hawkman what they have been working on, showing him the known history of Krypton, containing everything from Doomsday to Flamebird and Nightwing. Hawkman says that he merely writes in his journals, and Carter understands the tangibility of ink and paper, and he knows one day Hawkman will learn who his writing is for. Hawkman tells Carter that Kara escapes as well. She becomes Supergirl and remembers Krypton and everything, but it is difficult for her. Hawkman even shares the details that Kryptonians become superpowered on Earth, telling Carter that while it's only mere pieces of it, Krypton lives through Kal and Kara. As they head through the holograms, Carter knows that Hawkman's arrival signals the second coming of the Deathbringers, something that haunts his dreams. Hawkman tells him that how they once led the Deathbringers in their first life, and on Krypton there is a weapon to stop them. Carter takes him to a giant device, but Hawkman learns that it's not complete. Carter says that he wanted to use it to combat the Deathbringers and save Krypton, but Krypton destroyed itself, meaning his work is meaningless. Hawkman wonders how to move such a device, but Carter says that the device is stationary and the Deathbringers needed to be lured to it in order for it to work, but that's all over now that Krypton is destroyed. Hawkman hopes that there are schematics or designs somewhere, but Carter says that he has failed and that many worlds will suffer because of it. Hawkman becomes frustrated as the holograms end and they return to the destruction of Krypton. He refuses to give up though, telling Carter to come back with him and they can rebuild the weapon. Carter asks how that would even be possible, and Hawkman says that his friend the Atom says that each time they reincarnate, a piece of their consciousness stays behind and it's why they forget things. But if they connect somehow, those missing pieces will be filled in and returned. Carter wonders how it's even possible to connect with a life he never lived, knowing that he isn't the solution to Hawkman's problems. Hawkman is his own solution. Hawkman says that that's not good enough and this trial was supposed to find him the end to the Deathbringers. Carter says that they are all living embodiments of historical documentation of the universe and their knowledge is wasted if they don't apply it to the future, meaning Hawkman has to be the weapon to defeat the Deathbringers. Soon Hawkman's time blur returns to take Hawkman back to the present, something he didn't anticipate since he hasn't gotten what he needed, but Carter Ol says that maybe he did. Thanks to the two Carters touching hands, they both stay in the same place, something which has never happened to Hawkman before. Carter is amazed Hawkman found the old ship, but knows that they can't hold hands forever. He tells Hawkman that Krypton's death is his fate, but thanks to all of this, Hawkman has given him hope. Carter Ol says goodbye to his future self, thanking him for everything as Hawkman is pulled back to his time as Krypton explodes. Carter feels the loss of Krypton all over again, but knows Krypton's rubble isn't the remnant. He is, and he won't let Krypton's fate become Earth's. However, it is too late, as above Earth, the Deathbringers have arrived. In London, reports of system-wide glitches in navigation and communications are reported. Carter goes to see Madame Xanadu, frantically telling her to use the shell of All-Sea again since it started everything and triggered his memories, but he needs her to connect him to them again. Xanadu tries to calm Carter, who says that again, the shell is the answer. Xanadu says that the shell isn't the answer to his problems and wants to know what this is about. Carter says that it's all real and he's been slipping across time and space to his past selves. Xanadu tells him to wait as she closes up her shop since they need to talk. Carter tells her everything about his trip to Krypton, his new spaceship, and how to stop the Deathbringers before they reach Earth. Carter, however, explains that the weapon was never finished and now he has nothing. But just after Krypton died, Carter Ol was present with him and he thought maybe he could bring his past self back with him. But he now knows that it was a mistake to come to Xanadu. Xanadu asks what the Deathbringers want, and since Carter was one of them, he must know. Carter reveals that he was their leader and he turned stand against them, exiling them, and he reincarnates since he was given the chance to make good on all of the death he wrought on the universe as the Deathbringer, and when its debt is paid, he will die for good. Soon a man frantically runs into the shop, saying they all need to run. Xanadu goes outside to see the commotion and asks if Carter knows how much he needs before he is square, since now he will need to save London as the Deathbringers have arrived. Carter knows that his past has caught up with him and the great Cataclysm is here. Donning his wings and helmet, Carter confronts the Deathbringers, while Madame Xanadu puts a spell on the man who saw Carter change into Hawkman. The Deathbringers meanwhile are unleashed and the winged legions descend on Carter and London, destroying much of the city as their leader, Idam, confronts Carter, who shocked his old friend is alive since he watched him die. Idam charges Carter, saying that he scoured the stars and burned worlds to find him. The two winged men engage in battle, with Idam proclaiming the Deathbringers are his now and he decides their purpose. He tells Carter that they will be the scourge of creation, and for eons their hate against Carter grew and kept them strong. The beings slam into the pavement and Idam grabs Carter's mace, saying he knows the hero can't die, which is good since he has something much worse planned. Carter tries to get him to spare Earth and take him instead, but Idam is disgusted at Carter's cowardice, wondering how he ever called himself a general. Grabbing Carter, Idam says that he will bear witness for eternity as Earth and all of Carter's worlds die. Idam forces Carter to watch what he has planned for Earth, but Carter wants him to stop while there's still time. However, Idam has no intention of stopping since he has waited a long time for this to happen, hoping he haunted the hero's nightmares and if his reincarnations know of the inevitable Red Day dawning. He says his warships await his word to burn Earth while his army brings people for the slaughter. Carter knows that it is hopeless as he activates his wings, freeing himself from Idam's grasp and telling him that he's still going to fight. Idam wants to know what he fights for since it can't possibly be the soft people of Earth since they are mighty gods. Carter says it took a long time for him to realize what they were doing was wrong and being a Deathbringer was never in his heart, and he hopes it's the same for Idam. Idam responds by attacking as Xanadu intervenes, saving Carter from Idam's axe, but she too is attacked by the Deathbringers as Idam sees that Carter cares for the witch, so he plans on using Carter's own weapon to kill her. Carter's mace, however, flies from Idam's hand back to its owner, who says that while Idam commands an army, his mace listens only to him. Carter smashes him with the mace and Idam realizes that Carter truly is reformed, so he wonders if the hero can save all of the people his men have rounded up. Carter hesitates, but says that he will die trying, maybe for the final time. Carter takes off into the sky, battling the Deathbringers and rescuing the people, forming a chain of all the people the villains were trying to kidnap and settling them down in Trafalgar Square. As the people thank him, he begins having another one of his time slips, smacking himself in the head to try and stay in the present to fight on as Hawkman. He battles the hordes of Deathbringers, who on the order of Idam, grab him and give him all of their fury, pummeling him into the building and finally the ground in front of Idam. Idam says that the fight is done now and his trial is only beginning and he has failed his debt to the universe as Earth falls today because of him and the people's blood is on his hands 1,000-fold. Carter says that he sees it all clearly now, and for so long he thought the past was calling him backward in time to reveal truths, but he knows that the past was trying to call him back just before, but it was calling for him to do something else, and he must thank Idam for revealing that to him. The time slip begins opening again, as Carter says that Idam was the final clue since he was reconnecting with pieces of his consciousness left in the past, and like oceans have shores, he is at his life's shores, and Idam is the beginning, and every life he ever lived exists between the beginning with Idam and now the end with Idam. Carter knows that a brilliant man once said that he would have to be the weapon to stop, but he knows that he's not the weapon, he's an army. The time slip takes over Carter and spills forth all of the Hawkmen from across time. Idam is shocked at the army of Hawkmans that have arrived to battle his army, demanding Carter tell him how this is possible. Carter says that he is using his history to save the future, but Idam says that if it's a war Carter Hall wants, then it is a war he will have as he stabs Carter with his spear. Above the battle, the army of the Hawkmen descend into London, attacking the army of the Deathbringers. In the streets below, the Silent Knight of Britain reunites with Xanadu, who says that he's as bold as she remembered. The knight is glad to see his old friend, who tells the knight to gallop on since their work is piling up. Qatar Hall of Krypton meanwhile uses his newfound superpowers to take on a whole legion of Deathbringers, as Goldhawk and Nighthawk battle their own hordes in defense of London. The Dragon of Barbados, Airwing, Arion, Carter Ol of Thanagar, and Carter Hall of Ran and Prince Khufu join in on the fray as well, while Carter himself is stabbed by Idam, who doesn't think Carter's gambit will succeed, and his Hawkman army won't be enough to kill him or the Deathbringer horde. Idam thanks Carter for his betrayal, since without him he would never have become so driven, and now the universe will blame Carter for its downfall. Carter knows that Idam has become more twisted and evil than ever before, and he is burdened by all that he did as Idam's general. But he knows more than anyone that there is more powerful things than hate, regret, and shame, and Idam knows nothing about them. Carter rips the spear from his shoulder, kneeing Idam in the gut and smashing him in the back with his elbow, telling the villain that he understands how strong good can be, and while Idam calls him an enemy, he will never understand who he really is. Carter says that he's not Qatar Deathbringer, since that name died when he chose to be reborn as Carter Hall, the Hawkman. Carter stabs Idam in the chest, pinning him to the ground, and thinking him dead, he goes to leave to help his friends. Idam awakens though, saying Carter cannot kill him since falling into the void changed him and he is something else now. Carter asks what it will do to make his past the past, but Idam says that he is owed revenge for the loss of a millennia. Therefore, Carter's suffering will never end. The two battle one another as the Hawkmen begin losing their own battles to the now immortal Deathbringers. Idam smashes Carter in the face, telling him to take his loss and see Idam's victories, since instead of killing only Carter, he's killed all of the Hawkmen, giving him 1,000 victories in one and making him a supreme Deathbringer, even more so than Carter ever was. Carter says that the villain is right, as this isn't about the villain's army or his army, it's all about both of them, since that's where it's all started. Idam is happy Carter finally grasps the inevitable as it begins. The villain takes off into the sky, telling all his men to return to the warship, and he tells the ships to incinerate all of Earth. The warships begin powering up as the Hawkmen watch on helplessly, hoping for God's intervention. Back at the beginning, Carter and Idam bask in the sunset of another world succumb to their violence. Neither can remember which world this is, but Idam knows that it doesn't matter, since they are all Qatar's victory and every carcass for the ritual is a testament to them and to Qatar. Qatar knows that it never ends, but his friend tells him to bask in the conquests while he can, since one day this will all be over and the Lord beyond the void will join them. In the present, Carter and his many different lives rally in the skies above London, looking to meet the Deathbringers head on as Carter confronts Idam alone. The Deathbringer behemoths meanwhile begin charging up their weapons as the Hawkmen split into teams, going after them. Carter battles Idam through the sky, telling the Deathbringer that he won't be holding back thanks to his immortality and he can keep his life, since Carter plans on killing Idam's will. Elsewhere in the city, Qatar Ol of Krypton rips into the Deathbringer behemoths, fired on by the soldiers inside who say it's been too long since they killed a Kryptonian. Qatar reminds them that this world is not his, and he will see that it survives. As the Hawkman of Barbados rips into the Deathbringers, Carter tells Idam that he shouldn't have left the Horde, and now he's come for his old rank back. As he smashes Idam into the ground, the villain tells him to stop, but Carter refuses as the behemoth's cannons are fully charged. Carter rips Idam's wings off as the Hawkmen set their explosive charges within the behemoths, blowing up their main reactors. Carter breaks Idam's spine, telling him that his spirit is to be broken next. He proclaims that he is a warrior of worlds and his fight spans lifetimes, so Idam never stood a chance. The behemoths continue to go offline as Carter forces Idam to watch as Qatar Ol unleashes his heat vision for the first time, blowing right through the behemoth and destroying it. Carter tells Idam that his blood campaign is over and there is only one thing left for him to do. He demands Idam tell him who is the general of the Deathbringers, knowing the Horde and the villain know the right answer, but he wants him to say it. Idam tells Carter that he is the rightful general, causing the hero to let him go. Raising his mace, Carter says that he's going to hammer home the point as he smashes Idam over the head, finally defeating him. Calling to the Deathbringers, he tells them that he will meet any who challenge him, or they can end this and leave. move. The Deathbringers listen to their old general, told to free the captives and await his orders. One Deathbringer, however, steps forward, Qatar Deathbringer, who says that he only wishes to speak to his new self. Qatar is impressed with what Carter has made from his failings and what they have become. Carter says that he's doing the best he can, but the Deathbringer did dig them a pretty deep hole. The Hawkman hug and Qatar thanks his younger self for everything that he has done. Talk turns to a woman he saw and who inspired him to choose the right path. Qatar wonders if the woman is still part of this life, and Carter tells him not to rule her out just yet. Before he leaves, Qatar wants to show Carter one last thing as a time slip occurs. This time slip affects all of the Hawkmen as Carter is shown his entire history. He begins to find it all too much when suddenly there is an explosion of energy as all of the Hawkmen return into Carter. Madame Xanadu rushes to Carter's side, helping him up and telling the hero that he saved them and the planet. Carter says that he remembers all his past lives now and that he also knows what he needs to atone for. Xanadu thinks that he's lucky since she's lived long enough to have her own regrets and she'd love to have a tally to make good on. She asks what happens now and Carter says that he needs to find what the Deathbringers can become now, thinking maybe they might make good farmers. After all of that, he's on to his next adventure, wherever that will be. Later on, Carter continues writing in his journal, knowing that he is changed thanks to his odyssey through time and space and his many lives. He still has many questions but knows the answers won't come easy as he is met by Idam, who has been imprisoned in the well. Idam asks if the hero is there to gloat, knowing that there is something that lingers and Carter doesn't know what it is. Carter says that he needs to know everything, not just the past but also the future. Idam says that locking him away accomplishes nothing and time is on his side, since not even the Lord beyond the void could stop him from hearing of the rumored grand plan. Carter hopes that Idam will tell him, but Idam says that his lives make him the strongest warrior ever, but also make him a valuable weapon, and he will slaughter again, and nothing will stand in Hawkman's way when it becomes time to start a new blood campaign. Hawkman issues 8 to 12 was an utterly amazing story arc that rebooted Hawkman in a way that honors everything that came before, as well as giving the hero some much needed refreshing and new status quo. I really love the scope of the story Robert Venditti built here, as well as in the previous 7 issues, and turned Carter Hall into a compelling and complex character. I do hope we get a few more stories set within those different lives of Hawkman, since they are all so interesting and different in their own little ways, so there's so much content there for future stories, and the fact that everything that has ever happened to Hawkman over his long and storied history is canon just opens the door to so many cool stories to be told, and ones we haven't even seen before, so that's very exciting. I'm going to give this story arc a 9 out of 10.